Hi students, and welcome to our second live IELTS class today. My name is Adrian and I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria here on the western side of Canada along the Pacific Ocean. I hope that all of you are having an outstanding weekend so far. Students, in this class we're looking at IELTS Speaking Part 3. Specifically, we're looking at questions dealing with borrowing and lending. The reason for that is we just finished a Speaking Part 2 class half an hour ago. That Speaking Part 2 cue card question was focusing on an object that you had borrowed in the past. Welcome Anna, hi Husan, Saloni, Rupinder. Nice to see many students in this class ready to learn. Domenico, Fuang, so good to have you here with me daily in these live classes. Hi, welcome back, Elizabeth. Students, this lesson, as usual, it is powered by aehelp.com. For academic IELTS, visit us there. For the general IELTS, check us out at gieltshelp.com. These are our websites. We use them to navigate these live classes. We will use the websites today to interact with students. This is aehelp.com here. You've got the big red button here that you can click to join our premium IELTS course. It is a one-time payment for lifetime access. We're an IDP affiliate. We're a British Council partner. We're an IELTS test registration center. I'm a certified British Council agent. You are in great hands with us. So just click that Join Now button and then use the discount code NOVEL9 for a 10% added discount. The course is different price in different countries, so check out your local price, your local currency. And again, it doesn't cost very much. For general IELTS, it's gieltshelp.com. It's the green background, and then you have all the videos, practice exams, materials to follow with these live classes. You can also install the apps, Academic IELTS Help, General IELTS Help. The apps will link to the websites. Click the little more icon at the bottom of the app and then link accounts, and you can link it to the web account. Only purchase in one place. You don't need to purchase in both places. If you buy the app, you have the website. If you buy the website, you have the app. Okay. All right. Salutations back at you, Faten. Bukayo, very nice to have you here with me. Blogs, check them out. We've got this blog for you that teaches you vocabulary. There it is in the chat. We've got lots of good blogs on our website, and they're absolutely free, so check them out. IELTS_AE Help for Instagram and GIELTS Help. We've got over 100,000 followers, so lots of useful material there. For questions, send an email. Adrian@aehelp.com or admin@aehelp.com. Okay, students, the schedule. So we've got this class, and then we've got a break until Thursday. Thursday, I'm back with Speaking Part 1. That's our usual schedule. So our usual schedule, we have these live classes Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So check out the schedule on the YouTube community posts as well as on Instagram. I will put this schedule up later today. So we'll have speaking, writing task 2, reading, and more speaking next week. Okay. Also check out new videos like this one on the channel. All right, Domenico says, Adrian, I have a scheduled presentation in English to deliver tomorrow. Any recommendations? Yeah, Domenico, practice. Practice the presentation and watch your audience. Make it interactive. People like to interact in presentations. So think about ways that you can get your audience to interact with you. Right? Like I'm interacting with you now. All right. Kushnidin has an exam in 2 days, a speaking exam. Definitely volunteer. And good luck, Kushnidin, in your exam in 2 days. All right, everybody. So speaking part 3. Speaking part 3 continues from speaking part 2. Make connections between speaking part 2 and speaking part 3. Always focus on explanations. Plus examples. Okay, so the examiner will say that is the end of part 2. We will now continue with part 3. For this part, I will ask you questions related to the topic of part 2 and some questions concerning borrowing and lending. Let's talk about borrowing and lending. Okay, so they have their questions kind of like this, where it's 1 or 2 questions on the sheet. Here you can see it's 2 questions, is because the questions are connected. So the examiner will say, when is it a good idea to borrow an item instead of buying it? So give me a full sentence answer for this. Let's look at some answers, and then I will give you tips and strategies based on the answers, okay? So when is it a good idea to borrow an item instead of buying it? It is an outstanding idea to borrow an object rather than purchasing it when a person only needs it for a single occasion, or if they do not have the money to pay for it. Like with me, I just didn't have the money for a new violin before my concert. Okay, that was my connection to part 2, by the way. So for those of you who were in the last class, I chose to take the topic suggested by Julia about borrowing a violin, and I gave a part 2 response about borrowing a violin and why I borrowed it. And one of the reasons I gave is I didn't have money to buy it, right? So there's an object that I decided to borrow. Notice the paraphrasing. So good idea. Here I said outstanding idea. Item, instead of item, I just said object. Instead of, I said rather than. Catch new vocabulary, write it down and use it. Okay, so for instance, if you often say instead or instead of, learn to say rather than. Okay, buying, I used purchasing. So again, speak and repeat. It is an outstanding idea to borrow an object rather than purchasing it. When a person only needs it for a single occasion. Or if they do not have the money to pay for it. Like with me, I just didn't have the money for a new violin before my concert. Teaching biomedicine says, I believe that it's better to borrow things when they are extremely expensive or you need this thing for a short period of time. For example, as I've mentioned before, I borrowed a car from my father because currently I don't have enough money to buy my own vehicle, and I drive a car only when I have night shifts. Okay, I love the example. Let's simplify it a little bit. So try to be a bit more concise, okay? And don't use the word things. Students, I know here it kind of makes sense, but still, don't use the word things because things is a negative word. I mean, it's not a bad word, but it's just a word that replaces better words, okay? So always avoid it, okay? We have this bad habit of overusing it because it's an easy path. Okay, so I believe it's better to borrow objects or items or belongings when they are extremely expensive, or not you. Also avoid the word you. Okay, because now you're directing it to your listener, and you don't want to do that in IELTS. You don't want to direct towards your examiner. So, or when they are extremely expensive, or when a person needs this object for a short period of time. Okay. Practice being concise. You don't need to say for example. I definitely recommend avoiding the use of for example in your speaking. Examiners get a little bit freaked out, especially in part 3. Oftentimes when an examiner is not too experienced, they're already kind of running out of time often when they get to part 3. So as soon as you say for example, they're going to interrupt you. As I've mentioned before, I borrowed a car from my father because currently I don't have enough money to buy my own vehicle, and I drive a car only when I have night shifts. So now it's better. We change those 4 little pieces and it becomes really, really good. Okay. All right. Amra, you're in here somewhere. Thank you for moderating. I see that you just did that. That was really good. Okay. Anna has this answer for us. Truth be told, borrowing items is a great idea when it's quite costly to a person to purchase objects such as clothes or books. Like an example, I can say that most schools leavers borrow an evening dress or costume. All right. A good start, Anna. Let's clarify this a little bit. I think I know what you're trying to say. British people say costume. Americans will usually say dress. Just choose one. Okay, so truth be told, borrowing items is a great idea when it's quite costly to purchase, such as clothes and books. Like an example, like in most schools, graduates borrow an evening dress or suit because they cost hundreds of dollars and they will not need them after that special day. Okay, so Anna, that's how I would change it, especially the end there, the example. I think what you're trying to tell me is that when a person graduates school, they will often borrow a dress, or it's not even a suit, it's a tuxedo. It's more fancy. Tuxedo. A tuxedo is a fancy suit. Okay, so truth be told, borrowing items is a great idea when it's quite costly to purchase, such as clothes and books. Like in most schools, graduates borrow an evening dress or tuxedo because they cost hundreds of dollars and they will not need them after that special day. Now we've got lots of clarity. So now, Anna, it's more of a band 9 than a band 7. Okay. All right. And then the follow-up question, can you give me an example? Right? So at this point, the examiner is going to ask you a follow-up. Be ready for it. In certain situations, the follow-up is a question that you already answered. Like, for instance here, teaching biomedicine has already said I borrow a car. Anna has already said that, you know, we borrow clothes for graduation. Sure, or like a wedding would be another example there. What you need to do in this case is give more examples, okay? So certainly, aside from borrowing a violin, a person may borrow a car, computer, or book that they only need for a single situation, such as last week when I borrowed the car from my dad to pick up a chair from my friend's place. Which I also borrowed. No, I'm just kidding. Don't overdo it. Okay. All right. Okay, so that's how it looks when you have that follow-up question. So certainly, aside from borrowing a violin, a person may borrow a car, computer, or book that they only need for a single situation, such as last week when I borrowed the car from my dad to pick up a chair from my friend's place. Okay. Rahul is asking, what are the most commonly used synonyms for consuming a beer? Drinking a beer, having a beer, sipping a beer, gulping a beer. Because in today's exam, there was a topic in writing task 1, which was 2 tables showing consumption of beer. Okay, yeah, so drinking, having. Mikhail says, I would guess that following phrase is correct in terms of grammar. They should better to borrow an item rather than buying it. Mikhail, I'm not sure where you're going with that. Chayani says, I think the greatest time to borrow objects is when the situation is urgent instead of paying that amount of money. I'd rather borrow Jessica's traditional Indonesian clothes than rent that for around 250,000 rupees for the dance performance the next day on the Diaz Natality Festival. All right. Juan says, Rahul, can you please share more about your exam? All right. Great, students. Nice. Good interactions. Okay. Ubadulaya says, even though I'm extroverted, I feel embarrassed when I borrow from others. People think that I am broke. Yeah, we have a very strange culture globally right now, Ubadulayev. It's the consumer culture where people are made to feel awkward to borrow, and actually that's a really bad part of society. We should definitely be lending and borrowing items from each other to help save the environment, if nothing else. You should say, hey, can I borrow your car? I don't want to buy one because I want to save the environment. All right. So that leads me into my next question. Have lending and borrowing customs changed since a generation before? So here we have the next question. And notice that this is present perfect. Have lending and borrowing customs changed? Okay. Have they changed? When you hear a present perfect question in the IELTS speaking, you should respond with a present perfect immediately. Okay. Yes, they have. Change is almost always certain, right? So even without thinking, you can almost say, yes, they have. Yes, customs for lending and borrowing have changed quite a bit since my parents' time. While you're saying all of this, you're showing the grammar, you're showing that you understand the question, and you're also gaining some time to think about your answer. So just repeat after me. Yes, they have. Lending and borrowing customs have changed quite a bit since my parents' time. As a child, I recall my parents borrowing items quite frequently from friends and family, whether it was a car or a tent, in some cases tools to fix furniture. They frequently had some object on loan. However, these days, I find that people are embarrassed to borrow objects because they feel it makes them look cheap or poor. Okay? Now, don't over-explain. So don't start saying, I'm not sure if this is a good... No, just stop there. Okay? So once you've given an answer, an explanation, and oftentimes included an example, then stop. Don't get carried away. Don't get too into it and be like, yeah, no, I think it was better. Like, I think people are spending way too much money and now everybody has one of every item we can think of and a lot of it is just sitting in storage. No, don't do that. So don't start rambling. Okay? All right. So again, here's the question. Have lending and borrowing customs changed since a generation before? Repeat after me. Yes, they have. Lending and borrowing customs have changed quite a bit since my parents' time. As a child, I recall my parents borrowing items quite frequently from friends and family, whether it was a car or a tent, or in some cases tools to fix furniture. They frequently had some object on loan. However, these days I find that people are embarrassed to borrow objects because they feel it makes them look cheap or poor. Okay. Aditya is saying, can loan and borrow be used interchangeably? Yes, they can, Aditya, as long as you have the right preposition. Borrow from, lend to. Okay, in that case, they can be used interchangeably. Okay, you have to pay attention, of course, to the subject, but you can paraphrase those, right? A car was lent to me. I borrowed a car. Okay. All right, so you can use them interchangeably. Good question, Aditya. You have to pay attention to the grammar because the agent of the action changes, but they can be paraphrased grammatically. So the car was lent to me. I borrowed a car. Makes sense, right? Watch the agent of the action. The car was lent to me by my friend. I borrowed a car from my friend. Yeah, this is related to that tricky grammar that we talked about, right? Okay. All right. So, and it's good for Band 8, Band 9 candidates. You're definitely mastering that kind of grammar, paraphrasing. Okay. All right. So the examiner then says, can you elaborate? Okay, so here's the follow-up question. Okay. Once again, the examiner has a lot of these follow-up questions. Okay. So the examiner says, can you elaborate? Yes, of course. I feel that consumerism has manipulated people to always buy what they need instead of sharing. So the tradition of borrowing or lending has been presented in a negative light. And people these days are reluctant to loan their possessions because they are afraid of damage or loss. Okay, so that's my elaboration. Now, of course, you know, you can elaborate in different ways, right? So why is that, right? People are like, it's mine, don't touch it. Watch a ton of people show up at my house. Hey, can I borrow from you? Yes, you can. I just have a very simple policy. You break it, you buy it. Okay? You break it, you buy it. That's all. I think if people just did that, it's the one policy. I think we would all be happier and we would all have way more money if we just followed that one policy. Borrow freely, lend freely. If you break it, fix it or buy it. That's it. That's all it takes. You can be a millionaire. If you want to borrow my chainsaw, you can borrow it. You don't need to buy one, especially if you just use it once. We'll all be wealthier, right? So, but if you break it, you buy it, and be honest, right? If we could all follow that, we would live one big happy world. Most of the items we have, we don't need to use all the time. All right. So, a little bit of food for thought, as they say, food for thought. Okay, so let's see some answers. Rahul says, borrowing means you are taking something from someone for a period of time. Loaning means you have something for a period of time, but as time goes, we have to give money accordingly. No. Yeah, see, no, that's the sad part, Rahul. And when I was looking at images for loans, it was really sad to see that all that came up was money lending. No, the traditional meaning of loan is the same concept as to borrow, just the inverse. So loaning money traditionally did not actually mean to pay interest. Here's an interesting piece for everybody, and it's good to understand the word loan. Okay, so loan does not intrinsically mean that you have to pay interest. It means you borrow $5 and you pay back $5. Okay? When the bank is loaning you money, they're not actually loaning you money. It just sounds good to say it that way. Or a better way to say it is, it sounds favorable. Oh, I'm just borrowing some money. How nice. No, when banks loan you money, they are actually selling you money. Okay? You never pay back the exact same amount to the bank, even if you pay it back in that very minute. As soon as you've taken it out of the bank, you're getting back more. So they've sold you money. Okay? The bank sells you $5 for $10. Simply, you just don't have it, right? So loaning intrinsically does not mean that you pay interest or you pay more. Loaning means that, hey, you gave me $10, here's $10 back. Okay, that's why they say loan with interest, right? That's the key word there, is loan with interest. Okay, don't forget those two very important words. And what they've actually done is they've now sold you money. Okay, all right. So that's a loan with interest. That's why that's in the print, because otherwise you would say, hey, I'm not paying you back more. You just loaned it to me. And they'll say, no, 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 no. It's in the document that with interest we loaned it, right? All these amazing facts that you learn in these classes, right? You learn a lot by the time you see the world for the 40 years I have in all the different cultures and societies that I have. Aditya says, excellent, understood a lot of things, even some finance. Yep, absolutely. So loaning and borrowing, they're the same. When you loan and when you borrow, intrinsically there's no additional exchange of money or goods. Okay, all right, let's go to the next question. What are good policies to follow when lending expensive objects to friends or family? All right. So what are good policies to follow when lending expensive objects to friends or family? I think some great rules to establish when giving out or lending out valuable items like a car or a violin that can be hundreds or thousands of dollars is to let the borrower know that if they cause damage or they lose it, then they are responsible for replacement or repair. Okay, I borrowed an expensive camera from my friend, and I damaged the housing, so I had it repaired before returning it. Okay, that's that answer, explain, example. Okay, all right. So what are good policies to follow when lending expensive objects to friends or family? I think some great rules to establish when lending out valuable items like a car or a violin that can cost hundreds or thousands of dollars is to let the borrower know that if they cause damage or they lose it, then they are responsible for replacement or repair. I borrowed an expensive camera from my friend and I damaged the housing, so I had it repaired before returning it. Okay, make sure you're repeating, students. All right. Fuang says, when lending out pricey possessions like a car or house to both friends and family, we must follow some notions such as a written loan agreement or a promise of setting out a specific returning time. Yes, that's a good one too, right? I borrowed this camera 5 years ago, and I should probably return it. You didn't borrow it, you stole it by that time. Okay. Whether purposefully or accidentally, if you don't give back what you borrow within a relative amount of time, you're stealing it, right? So I didn't mean to. Yeah, but you did. So yes, absolutely. Mark it in the calendar. You need to give back this item by this date. That was a very smart comment, Fuang. Absolutely. So I need this back next week, Monday. Don't be shy about it. I think people are, that's one of the issues today, is people are just really shy to be very direct, right? Here's the camera. It's $1,000. Return it by Monday. If you break it, you buy it. Have fun with it. Good. Confidence in all parts of life, everybody. Notice how I'm using some quantification, hundreds or thousands of dollars, right? Always think numbers. Always think numbers. So, Fuang, we must follow some notions such as a written loan agreement or a promise of setting out a specific returning time. It's just simply return time, like next week, Monday. After school, right? I lent my laptop to my friend. I didn't need it for the next few days. And I said, hey, here's a contract, just in an email that says I have borrowed this laptop from Fuang and I will return it Monday, September the 4th, is it? Yeah. September the 4th, right? All right. Lef Wang says, actually, if you borrow something for more than 10 years and somehow not damage it, then you basically owned it and stole it. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. It's important to be clear on what happens. Can there be negative outcomes to lending valuable items? That's the follow-up. Okay. Yes, certainly. Bad blood can arise from borrowing valuables and then damaging or losing them and not replacing them, especially if they have sentimental value. One of my friends borrowed a necklace from his brother and lost it, and his brother is angry about it to this day, not only because it was valuable, but also because it was given to him by his late father. Okay, that's a sad example. Fortunately, it's not true. I literally just made that up. Okay, so let me explain it though. So yes, certainly, bad blood. Bad blood is an expression that means you have anger between two people, especially friends or family. Okay. So yes, bad blood can arise. Bad blood arises. It occurs. Okay. So yes, certainly bad blood can arise from borrowing valuables and then damaging or losing them and not replacing them, especially if they have sentimental value. Sentimental value means that there's some kind of emotional attachment or history. Those are probably items that people should not be lending, right? And then I gave an example. Now, thankfully, this is just a made-up example, but these kinds of situations do exist. So one of my friends borrowed a necklace from his brother and lost it, and his brother is angry about it to this day, not only because it was valuable, and instead of valuable, I might want to say something like gold, but also because it was given to him by his late father. Late father means that he passed away and he's no longer alive. Okay, very impactful. One way to guarantee yourself like a band 8 or a band 9 in the IELTS is to create strongly empathetic answers. Okay, so this is a good strategy. Okay, so most people have seen or heard or even experienced this kind of a situation in their life. And so they will be like, oh yeah, that's really bad. When you have the examiner thinking that, like in this case, you have the examiner thinking, oh yeah, that's really bad. Bad. Okay. They're probably thinking that's a great answer at the same time. Okay. Manav says, I want to improve my sentence formation. What can I do? Manav, use the question, use the grammar of the question. Okay. Always check your grammar, get feedback, lots and lots of feedback to improve your sentence structure, and actively practice and learn grammar. So open up a grammar book and look at how to create grammatically accurate, correct sentences with present perfect, passive voice, complex sentences, subordinate clause, and main clause. Okay, so look at those. All right. All right, everyone. Let's do this. Let's practice for real. So let's practice these questions. Let's do volunteering. Okay. So to volunteer, go to the website, go to aehelp.com. Amra has put the instructions into the chat also, right? And when you go to the website, we're going to use this one, aehelp.com. Click on that big red button that's just kind of right above my head there, right behind my head. Okay. Again, it's a one-time payment for lifetime access. You can use this free as well by clicking the green button and just signing up. Okay. And then when you're in your My Student account, you click on this big blue button here, the Student Partner Speaking. Okay. You have computer-based practice tests in the full course, interactive course with all these tips and strategies, exam books that you can download, PDFs, videos, lots and lots. So you get a lot of great content, especially for the little amount of money. So you go here, Student Partner Speaking, and then here you will see Ahmet, Manikanta, Aditya, Vlad, Mohammed, Shruti, and then you can volunteer. You will see me in here. I will be listed as master, all big letters. And then click the envelope that's next to my name and say, I want to volunteer. Now, Ahmed, I know you tried volunteering last class and you couldn't, and I told you I would keep an eye out for you, and I'm staying true to my promise. So let's do it. Are you ready? While you answer that question, I'm going to put on my ears and I will give you some tips, strategies, band scores. Okay. Here we go. So, Ahmed, yes.
Hello.
Hi, Ahmed. How are you?
I am fine. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm also doing well. Thank you for asking. Ahmed, just for our new viewers out there, can you tell everybody where you are and why you're studying IELTS?
I am calling from Nepal, Kathmandu, the capital city of the country. And then I am preparing for IELTS exam in a long period, after maybe 1 or 2 years. To complete my English studying, I have a goal about being fluent or perfect in English.
Very nice. Good, Ahmed. Those are great goals, especially when you're going for those band 8, band 9. It's not just that you're fluent when you get those marks, but it actually means that you are very good or expert in English. And for all of you out there, when you present a band 8, band 9 IELTS certificate to an organization or an individual, you're not just showing them that you're good in English, Ahmed. Also, very importantly, you're showing that person that you're very good at communicating, which means that it's not just in English, but it's the way that your brain is working. You're good at understanding questions that you are being asked, and you're able to focus and clearly answer those questions in context. Okay, that's a very big value of the IELTS that a lot of people don't really recognize because they just think English, 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 but it's more than that. Okay, so very good goals. Ahmed, let's jump into some part 3 questions. Are you ready?
Yes, I am ready.
Okay, let's talk about borrowing and lending. When is it a good idea to borrow an item instead of buying it?
I think it is a good idea to borrow an item instead of buying it. Maybe it is a short-term usage or something that we need to be more doing economy, because of maybe the item that we try to borrow is very expensive than we can afford, but we need it. So we need to be conscious about the economical things about our family or our own situation. And then borrowing an item instead of buying it is very essential. And then if I want to give an example here, I want to share something that I have witnessed in Corona time in Nepal. People were borrowing oxygen tubes from each other when they have finished using it. Instead of keeping them home uselessly, they can benefit to another person. And then people did it in very nice way that I witnessed in Nepal.
Have lending and borrowing customs changed since the generation before?
I think it has changed a lot. In my own personal experience, I recall my parents having borrowing the things more regularly, and then when they returned the things they borrowed, mostly they were given some kind of gifts as a sign of appreciation, like a handmade cake or meal or anything they can offer to their neighbors.
Okay, great. All right, so band score 8, very good. Not expert, but very good. You're fluent. You're giving me clear answers. You're confident in English. You're thinking in English when speaking in English. More or less, you're answering the question quite well. You're including a bit too much information, potentially, but that's okay. Where you're losing that one band is the lexical resource, so finding the perfect words for the situation, which also leads to some grammatical mistakes as well. And that's usually hand in hand. So when you're not finding the right word, it often will create some kind of grammatical mistake also. And so that's where you're losing that one band, Ahmed. Let me be more specific, okay?
Yeah, I got your point.
So you said, I think it is a good idea to borrow an item instead of buying it when it is short term. That was really good, by the way. Usage or economy. The word economy there was awkward, okay? The way that you were using it. When it is short-term usage, or economical is the correct word form there, economical, okay? And then you said maybe the item is expensive. We need to be conscious of economical things. Anytime you have the word things come into play, it should be like a red light. Something might be wrong here. It's not conscious of economical things. I think you do know the word. It just didn't come to you. My suggestion, Ahmed, is slow down a bit to let your brain process and think about the best word or the right word in that situation. Conscious of what? If I have $5,000 to spend in a month and I know that I'm not able to buy this, so I'm going to borrow it, that I'm conscious of my what? Not my economical things, but I'm conscious of my... starts with a B. The word that I'm looking for is a B. It starts with a B. Exactly, right? So once you recognize it, you're like, oh, of course, that's what I should have used there, is budget, right? So we're conscious of our budget, and we realize that we cannot afford it at that time, so we borrow it instead. So the examiner's processing this, right? Like the examiner says, oh, I think what he meant to say in that situation was budget rather than oxygen tubes. I think they're called oxygen tanks, but maybe tubes is another way to call them. That I wouldn't dock you for. I would just check if that's commonly used in some places. But oxygen tanks is, I definitely know, is correct. And then I asked you, have lending and borrowing customs changed? Before we jump there, let's just practice the correct way. So just repeat after me. I think it's a good idea to borrow an item instead of buying it when it's short-term usage or economical. Maybe the item is expensive and we need to be conscious of our budget. Can you try that?
I will try my best. It is a good idea to borrow an item instead of buying it when it's short-term usage or economical. Maybe the item is expensive. We need to be conscious of
No, no,
economical
no, no,
budget.
no, 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 no. We
No,
need to be
we were
conscious
gonna
of
say
our budget.
budget. Okay.
We need
Yeah,
to
we
be
need to be conscious
Mhm.
conscious of our economical
No
budget.
economical. No
No
economical in that
economical,
case. No, you take out
just budget.
economical. Just budget. We need to be conscious of our budget. Budget includes the concept of how much money we can spend, right? That's all in that word budget.
Yeah.
All right. Second part, I think it has changed a lot in my own personal experience. I have witnessed my parents. It was really smart. I loved your answer. It was great. Like you said, yes, in the past, when people borrowed an item from their friends, like their car, for example, for the weekend to take the family on a trip, after returning it, they made sure that the gas tank was full and they gave a gift of appreciation like a cake. Now, that was really smart. Again, the choice of vocabulary. You said handmade cake. Slightly awkward. It's not a handmade cake. What do you think is the correct way to say that instead of
Homemade.
Exactly. Yes, it's a homemade cake. So, what this tells me, Ahmed, is that you do have the right choice in your head. It's just probably you're speaking so quickly that you're not giving your brain enough time to put forward the best word, right? So slow down slightly, 5-10% slower, and find those best words, and then you'll get a band 9. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And then practicing with you is like trying to race a car in a very fast racing, but in the IELTS exam, you need to be in the normal traffic. So practicing is
Exactly.
a little bit exaggerating, and then it is good. In practice, we need to be exaggerating. We need to be slow. We need to be using the words. But in the IELTS, the thing will be natural, and then we need to be perfect already for the natural speaking. And then I appreciate that the thing that you are teaching us here.
You're very
Very
welcome.
vulnerable.
Yeah, absolutely, Ahmed. All right. Thank you for volunteering. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Thank you. Same to all.
Okay.
Have a nice class.
All right, that was Ahmed. Let's give Ahmed a thumbs up. That was really good. Yes, you have to be methodical in the actual IELTS exam. Don't rush. Okay. And that's a good point. Sometimes the examiners are speaking quite quickly. Don't try to keep up with the examiner. That's a really good tip to follow here. Okay. So do not try to keep up with the examiner. Okay. Be yourself, pace yourself, be methodical. Being methodical means that you think about your ideas and your methods. You're methodical. You're implementing methods, right? Like controlling your speed. Just so I do not have a dog. That was Ahmed's dog or Ahmed's neighbor's dog. Yeah, I do not. I have had dogs. I don't have any right now. My dogs have passed away, and I just haven't had the inclination to replace them yet. But I will. Once my younger daughter gets a little bit older, 2-3 years older, when she's around 4 or 5, then I will buy a dog. Not because I don't think small children should have dogs, just because small children take up a lot of attention and time anyways. They're kind of like dogs. But you know what? I could always just borrow a dog. Maybe I'll borrow my neighbor's dog for a couple of days if they lend it to me, and then that could work. All right. Let's look for another volunteer. Let's pick someone here. Let's look at someone from the bottom of the list that might be new. Belinda from Uganda is saying, I would like to be a volunteer. Belinda, are you ready? Sure. Absolutely. David, it's yes, the attention that's needed by children is comparable to the attention needed by dogs. Absolutely. Both need a lot of constant attention because one is chewing the electrical cord and the other one is setting fire to the carpet, and we don't know which one at what time. So, Belinda, if you're there, let me know and we'll volunteer for some of these part 3 questions. Okay. All right. No news from Belinda. All right. Let's try somebody else. Shruti, I don't think we've heard from you in a while. Are you ready, Shruti? We haven't heard a lot of female voices today. Be nice to hear female volunteer. Domenico says, my cats are like babies. Yes, cats have masters is what they say, or cats have slaves is what they say. All right, Shruti. Hi, Shruti.
Hi, sir.
How are you doing?
I'm doing just fine. How are you, sir?
I am doing quite well. Thank you for asking. I've got some good energy, some good flow going. All right, Shruti, can you tell everybody where you are in the world today?
Yeah, I'm calling from Kerala, India.
From Kerala.
Yeah.
And why are you taking IELTS?
Yeah, I'm actually planning to pursue my higher education in Canada, so I need the IELTS for that purpose.
Okay. All right. Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you some questions about borrowing, lending, and in this case, let's talk about favors. Are you ready?
Yes, sir. Sure.
Okay. So shifting gears a little bit here, let's talk about favors. What are some common situations where people ask for favors from each other?
I think some common instances where people ask for favors from each other are when they are in urgent need of something. For example, a car. I wanted to go on a ride with my friend, and I didn't have a car back then, and I had to borrow it from my brother who owned Maruti Desire car.
Which of these kinds of situations may be risky to extend the favor?
I think it might be potentially risky to lend an expensive item, as it is expensive and might hold a sentimental value. It will be stressful for the giver to lend it, as it can strain the relationship between both of them.
Okay, I'm going to stop there.
Yeah.
Because you're just doing such a great job that I want to give you some feedback. That's a band 9. So those are band 9 answers, okay? So as long as you're answering the questions like that, you're getting a band 9, no question about it. Very confident band 9, in fact. Pronunciation's outstanding. I can very clearly understand you. Grammatical range and accuracy is spot on, no mistakes. You've got good intonation, excellent flow of language. So just checking off all. If anybody looks at the publicly available marking criteria for IELTS and you look at what band 9 requires, then you would see that Shruti kind of checked off all of those requirements. And let me just give a bit of feedback on your answers so that people can see, oh, okay, that's why. So first of all, Shruti did not rush. Okay, Shruti, you used your own speed of English that you're comfortable with, where you know that you're being accurate and you're giving good information grammatically and content-wise, right? That felt like you did.
Okay.
Right? So you didn't feel nervous. You felt confident. You felt comfortable. You started with an because you were slowing it down. You were giving yourself time to think, and think you did, and that was a good thing that you thought, because you realized that favors and borrowing and lending are connected, right? And that's the tricky part of part 3 is the examiners will often ask these questions that seem really strange, but if you pay careful attention, you realize that they're still kind of asking you about the same topic. So you made that connection. You're like, oh yeah, he's still kind of asking me about because a favor is a type of borrowing. We're asking for a favor. We're basically borrowing the time or the energy or the object of another person. So there's still a relationship there, and you made a very good connection. So you said, I think some common instances, and because you slowed yourself, instead of using the word situations, you did some simple, elegant paraphrasing. And for a band 9, you don't have to have these very fancy words or idioms. Just nice, elegant paraphrasing is great. So you said, I think some common instances where people ask for favors from each other is when they are in urgent need of something. And that gave you time to think about that response, which was really good. And you said, for instance, a car. Now, if you wanted to make your answer even better, Shruti, the one part that I thought was kind of missing, but I was like, okay, I'll let it go. The rest of it was so good, I'll let it go. Was what was the urgent situation? I don't think I caught the urgent situation. So what made that situation urgent for you to have to borrow the car?
Oh, like I could have said that my car was not in a good condition or something like that. My car broke down.
And I had to get to a very important meeting or I would get fired from my job, right? So create the urgency, right? I had to get to my final exam for third year biology at university, right? So, so always remember, and this is an important tip for everybody, always remember that when you give an answer and an explanation, and then you're giving an example, make sure that the example is relevant, so it's really connected to that explanation. So okay, so pay attention to that. Same in the next answer, I said, which of these situations may be risky? And you were very smart. You've been paying attention to the lesson. You connected the borrowing and lending of expensive items and used the word sentimental value. You said it could put a strain on the relationship. Do you remember the collocation that I was teaching, what that relationship is when it's broken or when there's that strain on the relationship? We call it what? Do you remember the collocation I was teaching earlier?
Yeah, that was bad blood, I guess.
It is. It's bad blood. Yes. So it can create bad blood between friends and family members. Exactly. Good for you. So you're paying attention. That's the other important part of learning, right?
Yeah.
Good job, Shruti. Good job. And strain on the relationship or strain the relationship. Again, some very nice English. Okay.
Okay.
So keep it up, Shruti, and think about those relevant examples, okay?
Yes. I think I should work on it. The previous lesson also, I tried to connect with you, but my bad, the web socket closed and I couldn't connect with you.
If that happens, just hold the shift button on your keyboard and hit the refresh button, and then it should work again. Okay?
Yeah, I was up with an interesting story, in fact, about Washington. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Shruti, have a great rest of your weekend and come back and volunteer again, okay?
Yeah, sure. Same to you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Shruti.
Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, that was Shruti. Really good. Thumbs up. Very nice English. Obviously on the right path to complete her graduate diploma. And I'm sure she will have lots of success in life. All right, let's just skip to the bottom of the... Remember, students, if you want to volunteer, you have to message me. So, Vlad, if you want to volunteer, you need to send a message. Say, I want to volunteer. Okay, otherwise I don't know if you're just watching and I don't want to force anybody. Mohammed, yes, are you ready? Okay, hopefully Mohammed is available. All right, Mohammed, if you're there, let me know. Yeah, great. Hello, Mohammed. That was a quick pickup. I don't know if you can hear me or not. If you're there, let me know. Oh, wait a second. Sometimes it might take a second to connect. Oh, I see. Fuang says my mic is having some problems. Maybe I'll volunteer next time. Okay, Fuang. All right. Mohammed, I don't hear you. So check your system, check your connection. All right. Ronit, are you ready? I don't think Ronit's had a chance this week yet. Again, for those of you who are like, where are these guys? Where are they doing this? So this is at aehelp.com. You log in, you have to have an account, obviously, and then you use the student partner speaking function of the website. Okay, Ronit, I'm not getting anything from you, so let's move to Chayani. Chayani, are you ready? Hopefully Chayani's there. Chayani, by the way, I see that you've taken my advice on the importance of keeping up with your English before going to Australia, so good for you. Chayani, if you're there, give me a sign. Hi,
Hello,
Chayani.
Adrian.
Hi, how are you, Chayani?
I'm doing fine. How about you, Adrian?
I'm doing pretty good, thank you. Chayani, do you have a cat?
Yes, I have a cat.
Okay, can you lend it to Nipa? Because Nipa's really asking for one in the chat. Nipa says, everybody has a cat except me. Can somebody please give me a cat? So, no, I'm just kidding, Chayani. Do not give your cat away. But anyhow, Chayani, good for you. I've noticed that you're realizing like, okay, yeah, I have to really keep up with my English before going to Australia to avoid some inconveniences. That's smart. So you're back here. All right, good for you. Any questions about Australia? I mean, I don't live in Australia, but I've had lots of Aussie friends in the past and I know a bit about it. Do you have any questions about Australia or what you should be kind of cautious about going there? Or
I just at least like I need to improve the accent in there because I need to adjust the environment between the New South Wales environment, and also it is important to keep the good grammar in Australia.
yeah, and you know, it's a good point, Chayani. In fact, to help yourself kind of adjust faster, look at some of the local language. So look at the way people speak English in the area where you're going. So they definitely do speak a bit differently than I do. So they'll use the word mate instead of friend. They'll use the word flat instead of apartment. So there are a number of differences. The way that we ask tag questions can be quite different as well. So so it's good to kind of research the local English and the local dialect. So you should do that. Okay.
Okay, Adrian.
All right. Sounds like you have somebody cheering in the background, like whoop whoop. What is that?
It's my brother, my little brother. He's pussy.
All right. Your little brother's having some fun. Okay, Chayani, let me ask you a couple of questions. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, let's talk about favors. What are some common situations where people ask for favors from each other?
I think there are common circumstances that people ask for help for each other, like in the hazardous situation or urgent situation. Like when I was like falling from the bike, I need someone to lend some objects like a knee pads or medicine in order to get recover from the injury.
Which of these situations may be risky to extend the favor?
That's a tough question. I think the situation that can risky to extend the favor, what I mentioned before, like the hazardous situation. Maybe some of the people need some of the like a tools of the medicine. They need it so bad. So that's why in order to save from the disaster or like some injury.
It is often said that when people perform good deeds, they can expect good deeds in return. Is this always true?
I believe this is true. When people give some favor for the other else, that can be a good benefit for themselves. Like giving, like give some of the charity money to the poor, have a good impact for themselves, maybe from their career of the work. So it has happened to every people in Indonesia and also people around the world.
Okay. I'll stop there. That's the end of part 3. And we'll continue, or that is the end of the exam. You'll have your mark in 2 days. Okay. So not bad, Chayani. I would say that is about a band 7-ish. Okay. What did you get on your IELTS exam? Can you remind me? Because I know you did it.
It's 6.5 in speaking.
6.5 in speaking, which is solid. Okay.
Yeah,
So
it's
that's
solid.
between fluent and good. It's challenging to get that. Okay. Yeah. So I would say around 7, but I can definitely see a 6.5. So why that might be a score that somebody would give at this point as well. I'm sure. Half band variation. If, by the way, if somebody needs an extra half band, like if you need a band 7, it's good to do an EOR, like an inquiry on results. You didn't do that, right? So you didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you didn't need the 7. The 6.5 is good enough. No point in wasting the extra. I think it's like almost $200 or something to do the EORs. So
Yeah. And I heard also ER can decrease our band score,
it
right?
can. It can, because the other person marking doesn't know what the score is, so they can even give a lower score, and it can actually negatively. I don't think it can. I think ultimately it doesn't decrease your score, but it definitely won't increase your score. So if they give a lower score, then it just means they definitely won't give you a higher score. I don't think they'll take away the 6.5 and give you a 6, though. I don't think they do that.
I see it.
Okay, so here I asked you, what are common situations where people ask for favors from each other? And you said, I think there are some common circumstances, nice use of the word circumstances, where people ask for help, like when I was fallen from the bike. Let me correct that grammar. When I had fallen. Remember, if you're using that past participle of the verb, the fallen, it's going to be a past or present perfect, right? When I had, like when I had fallen from my bike, I needed to get help from the passers-by. Can you repeat after me? Like when I had fallen from my bike, I needed help from the passers-by. Try to repeat that sentence, Chani. One more time. Like when I had fallen from my bike, I needed help from the passers-by.
Like when I had fallen from the bike, I need to pass walker.
I needed help from the passers-by.
When I had fallen, I need the help from passerbys.
Passers-by.
Passerby.
Passers-by are actually people. It means the people who are passing by you, who are going beside you. They're called passers-by. Okay?
Okay, got it, Adrian.
All right, so had fallen from my bike. Now, this next question, I asked you, when might it be a bad idea? What was the question exactly? Which of these situations may be risky to extend the favor? And you said, well, hazardous situations. And your answer was a little bit confusing there, Chayani. So this is where you want to really think before you speak. In some situations, it's dangerous to help people because it can also put our own health or life in danger, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And to be honest, I didn't understand the question, what is asked for,
So
at the first time.
So when you're helping somebody out, you're giving them a favor, you're doing something helpful for them. When is it kind of risky or dangerous? One situation, like Shruti says, is where you're lending valuable or sentimental objects, right? Another situation is when it puts us in jeopardy with the law or with our health, right? So it may be risky to help others when it jeopardizes our health or freedom, like when a person is asking us to help them commit theft. Okay, help me steal this bike. I really need it. So just repeat after me. It may be risky to help others when it jeopardizes our health or freedom.
It may be risky to help others when it jeopardizes our health or freedom.
Yeah. Do you know the word jeopardize?
Jeopardize is just like vulnerable. Am I right?
Kind of. Jeopardy means that you're basically playing with luck. So you could be lucky or you could be unlucky. It's jeopardy. Okay. Right? It's kind of a synonym for risky, when it's risking our health or freedom. Okay. All right, Chayani, thanks for volunteering and thanks for giving me the opportunity to teach those verbs and phrases and words. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much, Adrian, for your
All right.
text.
Keep up the good work and check out that local Australian dialect. Okay.
Okay, all right, sir.
All right.
I
Bye,
will.
bye, Chayani.
Bye, Adrian.
Yeah, so a good tip, by the way, everybody, just kind of as a follow-up to speaking with China here. When you're planning to go to a place like the UK, England, London, or the US, Texas, Houston, check out the local history and the local language. That can really help you to adjust faster to your surroundings, okay? All right? So that's important advice. All right, Lee has been very impatient here and would like a shot. Are you ready? Lee, let's give Lee a chance. Lee, if you're there, Lee says yes. Thanks for the thumbs up for Chayani, everybody.
Hello, sir.
How are you, Lee?
I'm doing fantastic. Yourself?
I'm the same. Thank you. I'm doing well. Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Lee, are you ready for a few questions for part 3?
I was born ready. Fire, fire.
All right. That's the kind of confidence we like to hear for sure, Lee. Okay. So born ready. Okay, Lee, let's do this. Let's talk about borrowing and lending. What are good policies to follow when lending expensive objects to friends or family?
When lending an object, especially those which has sentimental value and is rather expensive, people should probably use the if you break, you take policy, which basically means whoever the person who takes a loan from the owner will buy the product and restore the condition of the product should it ever be broken. And I believe that this would make our world a much better place to live in due to the fairness that it has to the relationship between people.
Can there be negative outcomes to lending valuable items?
Absolutely. Since it would take someone with a considerable level of belief to lend something to a friend of theirs, and if for some reason the other person somehow demolishes or disrupt something relating to the mechanics of the product, then that may considerably lower the trust between the two, and it may result in them breaking their relation with each other. Another case where this might be rather negative is the fact that the loaner refuses to pay to request the product to the owner, and this may cause some havoc amongst the in the relationship between the two, as there are unlikely any solution to make
Lee,
that happening.
I will stop you there. The examiner will interrupt you there for sure. So you've got good ideas. You want to be more concise. So your band score for sure is going to be at least a 7. Okay, maybe even a 7.5, the way it is. Once you take all of this information and you make it more concise, so use half the number of words to say the same information, just more to the point, I think you can get up into the band 8, 8.5 range even. Okay. Concise. That's the key word here, is be more concise. Okay. Say it faster, say it shorter. Speak slower, but say it shorter, which means you'll say it faster. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what are good policies to follow when lending expensive objects? You did use some natural fillers, which was good. You were buying some time. She said, when lending an object, especially those with sentimental value or expensive objects, people should probably use the if you break, you take policy. I haven't heard it said that way. I've heard it said if you break it, you buy it policy. But maybe it exists, so I wouldn't judge you on that. If you break it, you buy it. Is usually the way I hear it. But okay, if you break it, you take it. Also makes sense.
It rhymes, though.
It does. So I will take that answer. So it was fine. Your explanation after that was a bit long-winded, right? So you just want to keep it simpler, right? This means when a person borrows a camera, they break it, they pay for it, or they buy a new one. That's it. And then you stop and wait for the next question, right? If you're speaking too long, you are at risk that the examiner will interrupt you. It will be incoherent, and it will lower the score. It won't feel like a good conversation. Okay. So short, concise answers. The next answer, you started very nice and strong. You said, yeah, absolutely. And then you said, since it would someone with considerable belief, again, it was really wordy. So just simple. It takes a lot of trust to lend expensive items to friends. And when that trust is broken, it destroys the relationship. My friend borrowed my camera, lost it, never gave it back. I haven't spoken to him since. End. Right?
Yeah.
Super concise. Can you try that? So give me the same answer, but be super concise. Can there be negative outcomes to lending valuable items?
Oh wait, I'm supposed to answer?
Yeah, in a very concise way.
No, sorry, I didn't catch that. Absolutely, since it would take an extraordinary level of belief to lend something of value to a friend, and if they fail to return it or damage it, it would considerably lower the level of trust between the two. Specifically, I once lended a phone to a friend of mine, and he demolished it the minute later. And right until currently, I haven't even heard anything from them, and I've lost touch with them since.
Good. Okay, much better. Good. That's what you want to do. So that was good. That's the right amount and level of information. Now you just want to clean it up and say it fluently, nice and smoothly, and you've got a great band score. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. So you know what you need to do. That's exactly what you need to do, Lee. And then you're on the right track. Thank you so much for
thank you for your time. And by the way, I'm going to have my IELTS examination in like 14 days. 10 days. So wish me luck, because we may never speak again by then.
Oh no, that's terrible news. Lee, come on, I'll be here. Come back before then. But anyway, I wish you the best of luck on your test. So fingers crossed that you get a great score. Practice what you've been learning in these classes, okay? And do come back before then.
I will.
Right? Okay.
I will try my best to get contact with you.
Okay.
And try to speak.
I'll keep an eye out for you. Bye for now, Lee. Keep up the good work.
Okay. Thank you for your time, sir.
All right, that was Lee. Thumbs up. Wish him luck. All right, students, that's today's class. Keep working with each other. There's so many beautiful, smart people in this chat, and you're all working towards the same goal. Many of you have exams like Lee coming up in the next few days. So check out aehelp.com for academic IELTS, and check out gieltshelp.com for general IELTS. This is aehelp.com here for academic English help. Our premium IELTS course is right here after you click the red button and you check out. Amra, thank you for volunteering. Okay, that was really good. Amra, thank you for moderating is what I meant to say. It was really good to have you moderate. Thank you, members. Thank you, viewers. General IELTS students, check out gieltshelp.com. Okay. We've got some new videos coming at you in the next few days as well. And I'm going to be back on Thursday with speaking part 1. And we'll have writing task 2 and reading next week as well. I will be posting the schedules on YouTube and on Instagram. aehelp.com, gieltshelp.com. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your weekend. Much love to all of you wherever you are in this big, wide world of ours. Bye for now, everybody.